Sure. Well, I'm happy to be here today on the Orrin Hatch bill that really will give a real impetus to service in our nation, from young kids to seniors and adults over 50. We have a lot of provisions in this bill that I think will make a real difference in the lives of so many millions of people, not only here in our country, but throughout the world, but mainly in our country. So we're going to file this bill today, as far as I'm concerned. I chatted with Teddy yesterday, and of course he's very excited about it, very happy about it. Worked very closely with him and his staff. He and I have chatted a number of times over the time that he's recuperating up there in Massachusetts. And this is a bill that I think everybody in America will be able to support. And we're pleased to say that both Barack Obama and John McCain so that's you got a lot of really top-notch bipartisan people involved in this bill. So hopefully we can get it through. Probably doing everything by now and see next year.
Senator, this bill seems to be a great opportunity at the perfect time to not only promote service but add economic value. Do you have any thoughts? I know it's early days here, but how this bill can be used to help promote energy efficiency, education, and add economic value to the
promote
economy?
Everything from real jobs to energy and the environment with this bill. And frankly, it's going to provide opportunities for people that haven't been helped before. And with a little bit of government funding can do an awful lot of good for society. I did an illustration. I mentioned it out there. Whitney Phipps's Dream Academy. That started a number of years ago, and he came to me and said, "Can we raise some money?" And I helped them to have the first gala where they raise enough money to really do. And what they do is they go into these inner cities with these kids that don't have a chance, or children of prisoners, or children of somebody in their family's gone to prison. At least that's the way it started. And they teach them that there's a better way. And they teach them online, and they teach them computers, and they get these. They are the cleanest, smartest, most uplifted kids that you've ever seen, and they have to, they have to live up to certain standards, and they love it. And they're doing a tremendous job, but raising the money for these types of organizations is sometimes very difficult. Fortunately, it's going well in a number of cities, but I just named that one, and that was one that started from absolute scratch. I had a lot to do with, and it's started by a Seventh-day Adventist minister named Whitney Phipps, an African-American minister who's one of my dearest friends on this earth. And he taught me an awful lot about service, an awful lot about how we can help these inner city kids. That's just one idea, but we have an idea here of actually giving scholarship monies to adults and seniors and kids who might be in great need of those monies. And adults can carry them down to their children or grandchildren, and it just makes sense. So you have to read the bill. There are a lot of provisions in it, and of course, like I say, we're going to try and fund it with $5 billion, and that's a lot of money.
Is that the problem you might have on the Hill, some of your colleagues, is just the cost of it? Or is there, do you think that some of your colleagues might have a philosophical problem with government funding and
There's always a problem with cost, because we are running huge deficits. Deficit doubled this last couple of years. And frankly, we have to work through that. There's no question about it. But I think there are so many provisions in here that ought to please those who are concerned about costs, because we have a huge cost in these kids that aren't going through high school. Just like I mentioned, 50% of African Americans, Hispanic kids, and Native Americans are not graduating with their class. Now that's a tremendous cost to society. If we could just switch that around and make some headway there, that would save billions and billions of dollars. And that's just one little illustration of what this bill can do. This bill can do so much good if we just get behind it and do what we should. But there's always a concern about more and more spending. So that's why Sarah Kennedy and I have committed to find an offsets to pay for this bill. So we'll be working very hard to do that.
Guys, one more question.
This bill, as you said, kind of highlights the cooperation that's possible in Washington. What do you make
presidential races taking place the last couple of days, particularly over these comments about paperless.
Well, let me just say this. We need to develop more bipartisan work in Congress of the United States. And that's where we ought to be working more together. Senator Kennedy and I have been able to bridge tremendous chasms. He being a leading liberal and I being a conservative. On the other hand, in this campaign, campaigns get that way. But I think it's ridiculous, some of the things that they said about Sarah Palin. I don't think it's ridiculous to make too much about Barack Obama. I'm sure he didn't mean it that way, the way it's been interpreted. We are fortunate in this country because you have good people on both sides. Barack Obama is a very nice person. He's smart. He's intelligent. He writes well. He's charismatic. Joe Biden, I've served with him for 32 years on the Judiciary Committee. He's a very fine human being. He's very liberal. They're both very liberal. I mean, don't miss your bet on that. They're considered two of the most liberal people in the whole Congress. In the case of John McCain, John McCain, we all know John is somebody who stands up for his beliefs as strongly as anybody who has ever, and he's also worked in a bipartisan way. And I know what that's like. I know how it is to be criticized. One of the first things I ever did was help Birch bypass the Civil Rights Act for institutionalized persons. That passed by one vote. I was the vote. And I can tell you, it took a lot of condemnation for that, but on the other hand, today everybody will admit that was the right thing to do. Well, I know what that's all about. Well, McCain has done a lifetime of service for all sides. Sarah Palin, man, you can't help but like her. I don't care who you are. And for them to criticize her the way they have, especially those on the left, especially women on the left, they ought to be the first to be proud of her running as a woman and having the guts to do so, even though they might differ with her philosophically. But I think they're finding that women are not single-issue people, and that they're really profoundly affected by the nomination of Sarah Palin for vice president. So you're going to have a lot of back and forth. It's just the nature of politics. But I think both sides have run very good races too.
Great, thank you
It
so
may
much.
go on and on.
You have to get to the airport.